It's time for this week's Sponsor Spotlight. I sat down with Tim Pederson from Opendorse.
Sitting down with Tim Pederson of Opendorse. Tim, how are we doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Harry?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Just to start us off, could you talk about how this partnership came to be and why you and the MIAA felt like it was important to have this available to member schools and their student athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I have to give a lot of credit to Commissioner Racy and Marshall for helping us get this in place. So how it really started was Opendorse, and I'll get into who we are and what we're doing. But we every month we kind of share different insights on NIL as far as what student athletes are doing and how much they're getting paid and average and those type of things. And the MIAA was top 15 one month as far as the amount of deals and money. And so I think Mike and Marshall had noticed and mentioned, and we thought, man, if you're already doing this well, imagine if there was some sort of partnership in place, how that could even help out even more. So we got to talking and came up with a great way that the MIAA will now be able to provide some of these great assets and tools to student athletes that are competing. And then by association, a lot of the schools will be working with us and doing some of those things too. So again, it was just a great idea from Mike and Marshall, and we're really excited about now making something more official and getting to roll that out here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Could you talk a little bit about the history of the company and how this new NIL legislation has impacted your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So Opendorse, we're headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska, so kind of right in the footprint of the MIAA, which is also great. We've got about 80 now full-time employees. So I've been in Opendorse for almost 5 years now. When I started, I think that number was somewhere around 20. So we've clearly grown quite a bit. And our background is that our co-founders, Blake Lawrence and Adi Kunalik. Blake Lawrence is actually a Kansas City native. He's a Shawnee Mission West grad, I think, and Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year back in 2007. So don't tell him I gave those accolades, because he likes to pump himself up quite a bit, but was a very good player. Same with Audie. He was a kicker, and they went to school at Nebraska and met obviously a lot of great and talented athletes. And, unfortunately Blake had concussion issues, so he had to stop playing midway through his junior year. And that's why this topic is really near and dear to him, is because he knows that every athlete has a window, and sometimes that window closes. Now Audie did go on to the NFL. He was a kicker, and he got to experience the athlete endorsement world and see some of those things. But why we're here today is because their teammates that did go on to the NFL had a lot of opportunity, but they had a ton of questions. They were asking things like, all right, how much could I make doing some of this stuff? And can you educate me on what this all means? And how do I stay compliant with the team that I'm playing for in the association? And most importantly, how do I do this athlete endorsement world? Do I have to go find deals? Will people come find me? Should I accept every deal? Should I not? And that is where they started to realize, man, there's just no technology in the space to help not only the athletes, but brands or companies that wanted to work with athletes, the associations they belong to. And so they created what is now Opendorse, really just trying to help out one of their best friends. A guy named Prince Amukamara was the first athlete ever to work with Opendorse. And now to almost, I don't even remember our total athlete. I think it's over 60, 70,000 athletes across the world, hundreds of college athletic departments and associations and those type of things. So that's kind of our background and how we got started. And really, what we were trying to do is help athletes understand what their brand was and educate them on what this all meant, how to continue to build that, especially on the social media side of things, where that's the most public thing that's going to be out there. So educating them and helping them build their personal brand there. Then stay compliant by disclosing what they're doing to either the team or the institution that they're a part of. And then finally, Opendorse Deals is really where we got started. And that is that kind of, for lack of a better term, a marketplace where athletes can go out and put themselves out there and understand who wants to work with them and maybe how much, and do it in a streamlined manner. We talk to a lot of coaches in this business, and I think that their number one concern is that they want the student athletes focused on games, or they want them thinking about school and those type of things. And we totally get that. And so that's why we've made it so easy with the Opendorse Deals platform to do that. So every athlete in the world, regardless of if we have a connection with the school or team they play for or not, they can download the Opendorse app. They can go into Opendorse Deals, opt in, create an account, put up settings as far as what they want to do, what they don't want to do, what they're interested in. And then, for lack of a better term, it's kind of almost like an Airbnb, where people looking to work with athletes, and the athletes themselves can come together and put these in place. So really excited about this. We're going to start, as I mentioned, start rolling this out to help student athletes understand that the first place they can go is to Opendorse Deals and get that going right now. And then a lot of what we're doing with the MIAA is helping them report that. So they a lot of these state laws with NIL, and I didn't answer that question, but so how this has impacted us is obviously, when this first started, obviously this is the first time college athletes can make money. So our presentation to athletes in the past has always been, you can't make money right now, but what you can do is you can build your personal brand. You can post a lot on social media at the right time. You can be really engaging, because that's going to help you with followers and those type of things, that whether you go on and go pro or you start a business, you've got this really engaged audience that is now with you for the rest of your life. And so that was our kind of pitch to them in the past, was make sure you're doing this so that when you can capitalize, you're ready to go. Now that time is here. They can actually start making money. And so that's how it changed, where, in the past, we really had to focus on here's what you do until you can start making money. And now they can start making money. So that adds a lot of layers to it. And that's why we want to help these schools and athletes kind of navigate what's coming here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know a lot of MIAA students have already started to get NIL endorsements, and I know there's got to be a bunch of others that are looking to try to find those. Would you have any tips for any student athletes that are maybe watching this today, want to find those NIL sponsorships, and how Opendorse can help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things that you can do. And obviously the first and foremost is to go to Opendorse, download the app and opt into deals. And we're going to send out some materials to schools and athletic directors and coaches on how they can do that. But it's a relatively simple process. And that's obviously the first step, is making sure you go to deals, create an account. From there, what we've been telling student athletes is like, this NIL it's a job. It's not maybe as a full-time job, but there is, if you lean into this more, there are ways that you can succeed and put yourself in a good position. So a lot of what we've talked about is everybody gets a link to their own account. And so the first thing you can do is you can share that with anybody that wants to work with you. So whether you get approached on the street or somebody after a game comes up to you, the easiest way to do that is send them to that link, because then that's going to start the process and make it easier to keep all of your transactions in one place. And there are a lot of details with NIL, and that's why, again, I think Mike and Marshall turned to us as like, you can't forget you're going to have to pay taxes on a lot of this stuff. So you got to save some money there, and there's got to be some prep work done. And there's just all these other things that come into it. And that's what Opendorse Deals does, is help make that easy and keep athletes organized. The other thing we talk about is that when you're an athlete and you're in high school and you're being recruited, you probably have a link to your huddle highlights in your bios so that coaches can find you, and then they can click on the link and see that. Once you get recruited and you're at school, we think that should change to the Opendorse Deals, link there. So that way, same thing. If you have a great game and somebody comes to try to find you and work with you, number one, you got to have a username that can be found online. So that's another thing we talk about, is make sure, sharpshooter 44 might sound cool to you, but other people out there aren't going to know that's you. So if you cannot be found, you can't be followed, and then you certainly can't start the transaction on deals. And so making it easy to be found is one of the things we also talk about. And then having that link in your bio for all inquiries, go here, or I'm open for business, essentially. That's been a really successful thing for student athletes to do on that front. So there's, and then once you get in there, there's things it's kind of like a LinkedIn page, where the more you put on there, the better. If you talk about your experience and where you're from, and have photos to make sure it's you and get verified, those are the things that can really help.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the MIAA, it has been one of the conference leaders in all divisions of NCAA, just in terms of reaching NIL deals. What could a partnership like this mean going forward, and how do you see this advantage giving the MIAA over other conferences with recruiting and exposure?
Yeah. I think what's tough for us to remember sometimes is that we're only 5 months in now to the NIL era. There was a lot of, it seems like longer, because there was kind of a 2-year period of, all right, this is going to be a thing starting July 1st of 2021, there was the lead up to it and there was the education there, but we're only 5 months into actually having student athletes do these transactions. So the fact that the MIAA is having such great success already is awesome. Now, what this partnership is going to do is I think our biggest thing is just the education piece, and letting people, again, going back to what I said, like, there's just a lot of questions around this. People want to lean into NIL, but they don't know where they should go. The education piece, as far as like, how much am I currently worth? What would I even charge somebody? Is this allowed per my state law and school policy? Is this not? And the MIAA has a couple other great partnerships in place with some other entities that are helping with those too. But I think the educational piece is really important to understand. Like, yes, this is a thing now, because I think there's some athletes that are gun shy a little bit because their entire life they've just been told, you can't start making money until after you graduate because there could be eligibility issues and those type of things. So now the fact that the MIAA, any student athlete in the conference, has a place where they can go, they can lean in, they can do this in a compliant manner. I mean, man, the sky is really the limit for this. And the other thing about the MIAA is there's so many great towns that these institutions and schools are a part of, that they want to support these student athletes in the school. And, I grew up 90 miles away from Kearney, Nebraska, and where the, UNK Lopers are. So shout out to UNK if there's anybody listening out there. And I get it. I grew up going to those games and seeing what a big deal it was. So you can't tell me that there's not a lot of people in those communities that won't say, we'd love to support these athletes. But again, just not knowing how to do that or where to go, it has been the biggest challenge. And so we've solved that problem, and we want to make it easy again, not only for these student athletes, but these companies and brands and fans that are in these communities that can really rally around these student athletes and do that. So the great part about deals is that everything is tracked and monitored, and there's a way to do this in a streamlined fashion where once something's done, then it can report into the monitor system and make sure that the compliance teams have eyes onto it. And that is only going to help to, I guess, rounding out your question. That's where we collect that data from, as far as which conferences and schools are doing this the best. And I see the more deals, obviously, the more that's coming in and the better data point. And then the higher this is going to go. And then all these coaches and athletic directors can go out there and say, this is another reason why we're in a great conference. And it's going to be, we're beating out some Division I conferences because of the great support that we get in this place. So really excited about where things can go from here for sure.
Yeah, it's been really impressive to see what's happened in just 5 months. Hard to believe it's only been that long, but
yeah,
it's been
definitely
great to hear about Opendorse, Tim. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Awesome. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.